Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming. I'm Dell and this is Kerbal Space Program, where Dell's Astronautics is trying to set itself up as a leader in tourism space flights. Oh, that's the idea anyway. Okay, I've done a little bit of work on here, just sorting some stuff out, and unfortunately lost a bit of money and etc. But what I've decided to look at is there's two areas we need to look at the moment, just to continue because of the money situation. And part of it is also the science. Now, they're sort of linked together because one of our biggest problems is that to have a successful and quick orbit, we need to have better control of our spaceship. And at the moment, that's not generally happening because of stability. Now, if we look at the Stay Putnik that we are currently using, we have no stability control available on this craft to help us. If we go to the which one is it? I've got to find it now. There we go. The under electrics, the Probodyne Octo. Well, we're going to call it the Octo probe. We see we get stability assist. Now that will help us with all of our manoeuvres, just to get them a little bit more efficient as a starting point. So this is going to be a key part of our next item, is to get this item, but it's 90 science and we have 11. I've used some of the science we did have to buy the aviation. The reason is we're now going to look at a next part, which is a way to get some various research within the game, researching to get science points. Now basically, if I go to the map from the tracking station, it'll be a good start. Every planet is divided up into multiple biomes, i.e. areas of interest, which is like desert, mountains. Below the mountains you're going to have hills, grasslands, polar regions, the sea and the shore. And over time we have collected samples at these various places. If we go back, we can see this in the R&D. We'll go back into there and we can look in the archives, and we can see where we have I'm going to the mission control. Do apologise on that. Let's go to the right place. There we go, research and development. If we go to science archives in the top left, we can see all of the Kerbin sciences we have performed. So if we go to the crew reports as an example, so we've had a crew report at grasslands, upper atmosphere, water, launch pad, flying over grasslands. So every area has like multiple possibilities. So you've got the biomes down here: water, grasslands, shores, launch pad, and there is more than that because there is other areas to think about. I know of there's ice caps, tundra, highlands, which we haven't got on here, mountains, grasslands we've done, deserts, badlands, shores and water. So there's a few places. There's also situations. We've got landed, splashed. They're basically on the ground, just whether it's in water or not. We then got flying low, flying high. You've got low space, and you've also got high space, which is, I believe, above 250 kilometers above the planet. Currently we have 4 different types of experiment we can do. Crew reports, which means we just get a crew to give us a report where he is. Mystery goo, which is that little container. The mobile lab, and the temperature scans. Now some items can be taken at all the different biomes and all the different situations. Some can only be done at a particular situation and biome. Now for instance, the materials lab, I've only had it at is more global, in that from what I found so far, the material study can be in space near Kerbin, or flying in Kerbin, or in one of the particular biomes whilst landed at a thing. So if we go upper atmosphere, flying, which is effectively low, in space, and then we've got water and upper atmosphere. Sorry, water and launch pad. Now these means we could land on the other biomes where we had crew reports, grasslands, shores, etc., and get science from them as well. And they're worth a lot every time. As you can see, that's up to 27 was there, 12, 17. You know, that we've got some possibility of quite some serious items. Also, the mystery goo has only been taken at grasslands, water and launch pad. Temperature scans, the same, can be done at multiple places. So there is also, you can see there's 21 hidden. It actually tells you how many other places there are to do these extra areas. There is also one other place that we can do this very quickly, and that is this launch area. We got science for being at the launch pad. We can also get science for being at each of the various buildings on this site. Whoops, I just selected that one by accident. So what I've done is I've unlocked the area notes. Now the easiest way, I wouldn't say the easiest way, yeah, the easiest way. There is effectively two ways you could have this. One, you could try and land your pod at every single station here, and what you could do is make a single stage with some landing pads, which just takes off and lands, and just hops around, and goes to each of these. It's almost like a control jet. It's like a little VTOL craft. The other way, which is the way I'm going to do it, is we go into the space plane, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a little sort of ground-based space plane. So we're going to get ourselves a little command pod. I could actually just go with the larger one, but we're going to go with this one for just for the moment because we already have it. We're going to give it a small fuel tank because we're only going to need a small fuel tank. We are going to give it a bit of fuselage. No, we're going to give it a science bay. And I'm actually going to put the science bay directly behind, and that goes there. Then we're going to have a bit of fuselage because we need a little bit of length here. If we don't put a bit of length in there, it will just tip over. Then we're going to use this basic jet engine on the back, and for that we also need an air intake to make that work, otherwise it will not work properly, that engine. Whoops, that's not very lined up. Might as well try and get it lined up. There we go. So that engine basically is connected to there. If they're not connected together, they won't work. Now, one thing we can do on here is we don't need any oxidizer. It only needs liquid fuel. Okay, so that just reduces our weight a little bit. The other bit we've unlocked is some landing gear. So we can put a bit of landing gear on this. Put some on the front, and then some struts on the rear. Now we need to go into mirror mode. So we don't want them too high. Is that? That might drag on the floor a little bit. We'll just take that down one there. There we go. So we've got some wheels at the back just to stop it tipping over. Anything else we need? Okay, for the sciences, the other things we will need is goo and thermometer. So if we get a goo, I'll put 2 goo on. It doesn't really matter too much, but we'll put the goo just here, and we'll put the thermometers just above it. There we go. So now we've got all of the areas. So let's just call this our jet car. Now the other thing, we don't want an engineer, we want a scientist. A scientist will get the most data from all of our areas. So if we now launch this vehicle, and it will launch it now onto the runway. The controls are a little bit different to a jet, but not a hell of a lot. Right, first thing, let's put the brakes on. So we've put the brake on. So when you on the ground, if you see that front wheel steers if I go left and right. So that is my steering, and I have to use these brakes. Now we're now on the runway. So if we observe material bay, that's 7.5 from being on the runway. And goo, that's another 3 for just being on the runway. And the temperature gauge, another 2.4 just for being on the runway. Now our pilot, can he do a crew report? Yep, another 1.5. This is all adding up. Now there's the sneaky bit. We're going to get him EVA, and we're going to take the data and store experiments. And now do another crew report. Okay, now if we go here, collect data. This is on the goo container. Right, remove the data. I've got to be a bit careful here. We have to use your S key just to go back, just to make sure we're in the right place. Take data. Whoop. Now let's just make sure we've got that, and then we can restore it. So this one is also we've got. Now also if I go here, go back a bit further, whoops, collect data, and then restore the bay, and it's now ready to take another thing. If I go forward a little bit again, I should be able to grab. There we are, and I can now, no, let's go back a bit, back a bit, back a bit. I can EVA report. Right, we'll take an EVA report as well. So now we can store 3 bits of data in here. So we're storing the material study from the runway, the material goo from the runway, and the temperature scan from the runway. And we could, can I take an EVA? I think I can only take 1 EVA report. Keep. Okay, so now if we board, we're back in our craft. And now what we're going to do, and we should have a whole load of items inside this here. So we've got 5 items stored in this pod now. Okay, so let's just start the engines. Now one thing is, you don't want to go too fast. You want to take off the brakes. Right. Get going, but then don't, whoops, just give it a little bit of throttle. Because once it goes, it's very not easy to slow down for a start. So we're just going to go over here to the space plane hangar. You've got to be ready on your brakes. Right, give it a bit of brakes before the turn. If you turn too sharply, especially on this early runway, you will turn over and basically crash, which is not good. So okay, let's apply our brakes just here. See if we can stop just in front of the hangar. Excellent, and our engine is off. Okay, so now we can do the same again. Observe materials. And it's now saying from SPH. And there we go, and observe mystery goo. I'll take that. And the temperature. And we'll take another crew report from the SPH. There we go. Now we tell Bob to EVA. And we, first of all, we go backwards a little bit and click on there, and we take the data, and here we collect the data, and then we restore it. And here, can we get on there yet? No. We can now collect the data and restore it. Go backwards, forwards again, and now we can store the 3 experiments. Do our crew report. No, can't do a crew report. And now we can get on board again. Okay, so that's another place done. So now we can go over to, let's go over to this center over here. So take our brakes off. Just a smidgen of power. We don't want to give too much. Oop, brakes, power off. Avoid the light posts. Hopefully it'll give us the next area. So if we go in here, so by taking the scientist, I'm resetting these experiments. If I did not have the scientist, I would have to do a recovery every time, which you can do. So I mean, you could do this, then start on the runway, go to the next place. We'll do the crew report. There we go, crew report. No, I need to come out first. Need to go EVA. Crew report. No. Okay, let's get those items I just did. Go back a bit. You have to be a bit careful with your Kerbal. You can get a little bit, collect the data, and then restore. Collect the data, and then restore. Go forward a little bit more. We need to click on this and then store the experiments. Crew report. No. So it's there. Unfortunately, crew reports we can't do more than once, which is really annoying. Or I found I can't find a way of storing them. I can only have one crew report as such. Okay, so where have we got left? Let's go over this way. So brakes off, a little bit of power, and turn. If you get enthusiastic with the power, you can very easily turn the vehicle over on these legs, because they're not very good, and basically crash and die and kill your Kerbal, your valuable scientist. So you don't want to be doing that. Whoops, slow down, going a bit fast. It should give us enough to give us a position here. Okay, that's that. Let's try again. Let's just see if we're going to get some new item. Observe material from the vehicle assembly bay. Yeah, we'll do a keep data on that. Now it's not giving us 100%, so I don't know why it wouldn't give us 100% there, but maybe there's a reason. And we'll do the log temperature. That one gives us 100%. Maybe it's the quality. Maybe it's the scientist. Without a good scientist, you know, what would the world be like? So we'll go up here. We'll click here. Take data. Yeah. Whoops. Log temperature. Take data. Oh, I was clicking on the right way. Collect data, and then restore it. Come back here. Collect data and restore. One thing is with the EVA, I don't think I've got the right skill level. Now if I do here and take data, if I then do a crew report, no, if I just store experiments, have I reached the limit? I've possibly reached the limit of how much can be stored in here. If I click on the pod up here, not sure if there's a way of seeing how much is storable, but I seem to have, it's not allowing me to store any more. No, don't want to do that. Take data. Okay, let's okay, there's one I'm gonna have to Okay, now we've got here, so I can, if I do F, I can recover where I am with what he has on him. So we can recover at this point, get our money back, and then we'll go over to the other places. So I'm just going to quickly go and do those other sections, and then I'll join you back in a little bit. That's one thing before I disappear off. That's one thing I needed to say is the actual crewman only had what he had stored. I have to recover the vehicle to get the other 57 science. So just as a bit, and so we've done that one. So we've got to yet now do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 left to do. Okay. Right, well, we have, I think, collected all of the data from the various places now. I did try the flagpole, but it didn't seem to want to give me any data from there. There may be a few other places I'm missing. We can actually quickly run to. For instance, up the back here we have grasslands, and if you wanted to do it, you could even go into the mountains over there to try and get a sample of data, but we might do this a slightly different way, but or we might build a proper plane. But that's given us a fair bit of science, so let's go and have a look, see what we can do, see what it's given us with our now 129 science. So now, to get a little bit more accuracy, what choices have we got? Flight control, so we've got this electrics, which I think is going to be the obvious one for us. Obviously heavy rocketry would be good as a next level. We will need that when we start going for flying to the Mun, etc. But for the moment, I think our primary, this hitchhiker could be good, is also going to be needed, I think, for some of these bits with these tourism, because with this we could put 4 people into the system at the same time. And that way we're doing 4 people for that around their little orbit or etc. at the same time, but we haven't got enough to fit that in at the moment. We've also got this barometer which will give us extra science, but for the moment the electrics to give us this different node on the front will be our basic starting point. Okay, we got that. Now we're down to 39 science. We can't get anything else, so now we're down to either heavy rocketry, just see, fuel systems are also going to be an important one soon. Advanced construction, again another important one, but we've got enough things we can do in our current area without having to go to this next level. Okay, no, that's fine. So okay, that's good. That's got us a quick bit of science, but now we need to get some really serious science from the other areas on the biomes and also in orbit. So what we're going to do is do some orbitals. Let's just see what we've got left on contracts actually before we go any further, because I think some of it's changed. May have. Let's see, what's the new ones have we got? Ferry 6 tourists. How much do we make from this one? Well, it's 6 tourists in one thing. It's about 80k, but some of these are quite difficult. Fly by the Mun, fine. Orbital space flight on Kerbin, fine. Suborbital space flight on the Mun. So they've actually got to suborbital space flight on the Mun. Now, if I get that right, we've actually got to land on the Mun, and then. So that's not flyby, that's actually get with land and go up again. I'll have to see what suborbital spaceflight on the Mun is, just as a test. What else have we got? This one's orbit around Kerbin, a nice little quick one. Although we have plenty at the moment. We have 2 tourists, some are complete, so it's just an orbit around Mun, and that will complete Podbart. Sorry, orbit around Kerbin. It's a test of an engine, which was a new one I did take on because I thought I could do it quickly, and it wasn't. Okay, 4 tourists. Which ones can we do quickly? Orbit Mun. Yeah, that will get us some money, but not complete the whole lot. Sorry, orbit Kerbin, but not fly by Minmus. Let's see, what's the next one? That one's been completed. That's a flyby Mun and an orbit. Okay, flyby suborbital is done. Flyby Mun, orbit. So I can't get rid of all that one. What about this 3? Flyby, orbit, suborbital. Flyby, suborbital. Nah, yeah, I can't do that one at the moment easily. I think there was one we can get. We can get rid of Podbart. Not get rid of Podbart, but we can do Podbart next. Suborbital flight, orbit, flyby. So this is all about Minmus. A lot of this is all about Minmus and Mun. So there's not a lot. What other ones can we get rid of? I was trying to do this test the engine, but it didn't seem to want to complete, even though I was using the engine at these altitudes. It seemed to suggest I wasn't flying, which was a little bit strange, but never mind. And this one is the test decoupler. That's the bigger decoupler, which we did get 19,000. If I fail, I've got to give the money back. So maybe we could try this one. Just try the decoupler, even though it's not going to be very effective. As long as it's worth 53,000. So okay, let's go here back into rockets. Let's see if we can get Podbart. We're going to redesign our launcher K2 K3. And what we're going to do is take off that, which has, so we're going to delete that, and then we're going to put this new Probodyne in. And what do we need to put on that? We need the goo containers, because we are still going to do sites. We must do science. Science is all important. Without science, we are going nowhere. Okay, so put those goo containers on the front, like that. That looks okay. We've got extra parachutes. Everything else is in the same places to work quite nicely. So this is an orbital. Now what we're going to try this time though, we're going to do some observations at various places, get pod BART, and we're going to have a little experiment of changing our orbit now that we have stability control. And first thing I'm going to do is sort out this down here, because there's something not right here. Yeah, then you've got to go into that stage. Let's just make sure my staging's correct now. So that, engines, engine right, those two engines. Then release the side clamps and do those parachutes. Hopefully they'll land, although to be honest they haven't been. So I'm actually not going to do that. I'm just trying to think, have they actually been landing? Have we been getting those back? We're going to have a test on this one, and before we launch, to see how much money we started with and how much we end up with, to see what the costs are of this orbital flight. Okay, right, the next one is the launch this and release the parachute. Which parachute is that? That's the parachute that's inside, this double parachute's there. And then finally fire this. This one doesn't get parachuted, it's a purely extravehicular. Right, so we're going to have a little bit of thrust available at the end of this after gaining orbit to adjust our orbit a little bit, and we're going to go through that. Okay, so we'll just save this as our K2 launch free. We've only made the changes our Hyperdyne on the front. Right, and we need to get pod BART in. Pod BART, where are you, pod BART? So I believe this could be your last flight with Dell's tourism, space tourism. So let us see if we can do this now. So slightly different procedure to normal for the takeoff we're going to do here. But then first of all, rocks when it lands. Make sure everything is okay here. Important things like parachute and the last stage. Yep. Now we're going to put our throttle on maximum, and this time we're going to enable the stabilization. Now at the moment the only stabilization we're going to have is on or off, basically. Unfortunately we were not going to have any more stabilization, any basic stabilization. We can't follow areas, but we're going to follow our basic plan, which is go up a little bit, then go into a slight gravity turn to the east. Now our plan at this time is we're going to try and land this pod on we'll see how much we can adjust it. We might try to go for, I don't think I'm going to go for a polar. Let's see, I think I'm going to try and land this. Let's see if we can land this in the desert. So this desert area here, and get some readings from the desert, just as a test, to see whether we can do it. So this is going to be adjusting the apoapsis to land in the desert area. But let's get into orbit first, and then we can worry about that as a second part. So, okay, first part of launch. Are you ready, pod BART, for your final landing, one way or another? Your final flight, one way or another. This is your final flight, I'm guessing. Right, 3, 2, 1, go. Slight inclination, but not much. The stabilization is now holding us in a nice position now. Not pushing it too much. Going full power. Speed is good. Don't want the speed getting too high. Feels good. Apoapsis is, time to apoapsis is increasing. That's the important bit to ensure you're actually gaining. Right, we're at 5,000, going to a 10 degree at 5,000. Getting it over. It's holding the equator. We're going a little fast. I'm getting rid of that other stage. We're a little slow on getting rid of that other stage there. Right, we're now going well at 10,000. 15, 20,000. I'm moving over to about the 45 degree mark. 20,000, that's going to be about there. So a little bit off the exact point, but that's about the 45 degree mark. Excellent, let's give it full beans. Got to get our apoapsis up to that about 80k. Once the apoapsis is at 80k, we can hold. So we're on a good, we're on a good 1 minute to apoapsis at the moment, which is excellent. Keeping it roughly in the apoapsis marker. How's our fuel? Is okay. Going for a little bit for height. Not pushing at the marker, just going behind the marker a little bit. Right, we're at 60k, which is good. Should be on time now. Staying in this, just on the edge of the retrograde marker, prograde marker. We're at 70,000, 74. We've now got a possible orbital thing, 80,000. Cutting engine at 80,000. Right, the reason for that is I now want to keep it on this prograde marker until we are right next to the apoapsis, so that our periapsis increases without actually increasing the apoapsis. So in other words, what I'm doing is I'm going to make, if I go here, the idea here is to make our orbit circular. At the moment you can see we are still in a suborbital flight. So, and we've got, what have we got? We've got 1 minute to apoapsis. So I'm putting this down because it's going to be very close to being on the equator, on the horizon. And we're basically going to try and bring, with our remaining fuel, the periapsis up to 80,000 as well. Right, we need to make it as close as we can to the apoapsis, so because that'll have the biggest effect on the periapsis. Right, 30 seconds to go. I'm going to burn at about 15 seconds to go. If my that's stable there, that's good. So the SAS is good. Right, burning. You can see the marker and the periapsis is moving quite nicely now. If it stops moving, it means I need to get rid of that stage. But you can see that the periapsis is moving a lot and the apoapsis is hardly moving now. Let's keep in that periapsis marker. Oh, we are close to, I think we've just used all the fuel up. Yep. Launching that stage. We need to go into this stage as well. Back to the map. This is where we need to, or we are close, bringing we are close to orbit. We are bringing the speed down because it's making big changes now. So we want to get our periapsis and apsis very close together, just with small amounts of thrust, not making it too much. You can see, if I zoom out enough here, you can see we are orbital. I want to get that, the other periapsis, up on a good similar sort of vein area. We've got enough fuel at the moment. Our fuel is reasonable. At 79, they're swapping, that's it. Just as they start to swap, you see the apoapsis and the periapsis has effectively swapped ends almost. That's the point that you're getting to equality. So now our periapsis and apsis are 83, 80. That's not too bad. I don't mind that at all. That's a good little orbit. Now also it means we have completed that particular contract, which is also good. Which all good, and I forgot to check the money. Okay, now our next stage is landing, so our landing point will be in this area. Now the way we're going to do that is when we get to our periapsis, we're going to start burning a retrograde, which will reduce this AP down on the planet. So to do this, we first of all, let's get ready for this by pointing at the retrograde marker. Just there. So by doing this at the PE, because they're so close to each other, it's not too much of a problem, but by doing it at the PE, it will bring the AP down, and we should see that start to suddenly hit the surface. Now what I want it to do, I want the PE and the AP will swap over at some point, because this is the highest point, lowest point. We're reducing the lowest point, so basically, sorry, we're reducing the highest point so it becomes the lowest point. So we'll have to be a bit careful, and then because of our height and the way that braking works, I want the PE to be around about 30,000 feet, I'm reckoning, over the desert, and that way with air braking it will hit that and then almost go straight down. There'll be very little after that there as an approximation at this time. So let's just speed up to the PE. So we've got about a minute left before we get to, got 25 seconds. Okay, I was looking at the wrong one, I was looking at apoapsis. Okay, get on the periapsis. Okay, we are on the periapsis. Right, I'm going to stay on now, I'm going to watch this over here now. Right, I'm going to give it a short burn. Right, you can see that they've just swapped round. That's the swap I was talking about. Right, we're keeping on this axis. Right, we're going to give it a heavier burn. You can see that the periapsis is now coming down. It's a little long. It's going to be a little short. We might just, okay, I'm going to hold it there. We're at 18,000 there. That might be, right, now what we can do is adjust the next bit, which is the nodal, let's just get this right. We need to push that side out just a bit. So this is like adjusting a hula hoop. If we aim directly in, this is the nodal. If I now just give this a very slight no, that's adjusting my apoapsis. So I need to go the other way. I want to head towards the periapsis. I go here. We have enough. We're going to be landing now because one of our areas is low enough. Right. Okay. If I push this up, we can see that the periapsis is moving slightly compared to the apoapsis. It's actually moving around. Our periapsis is also, apoapsis is also moving, but this is moving it like a hula hoop, for want of a better word, around. Now, okay, our periapsis now, 18k, it's a little lower than I wanted, so if we say that this here is about 30, I think that might put us onto the planet on there. So that's 17k above our target at this particular orbit. Let's have a look. That's going to bring us down. One way or another, we are going down onto the planet now. Whoops. I'll put ourselves on the retrograde marker just to be on the safe side. I will need to eject this. There is one other way of doing this. If you have fuel available, I'm trying to do this without using the fuel. How much fuel have we ended up with? We've ended up with half this tank actually available, which means that to be more efficient, we could just have reduce the the fuel in one of the other stages. Either reduce the fuel in this stage or one of the others. Right, now let's head towards that periapsis. We're at 78k at the moment. Okay, we're going to head towards here and see how far we get before we start. I'm going to do it in this view actually so I can see. I'm going to leave the fuel in there for the moment until we start grabbing atmosphere. So just coming around, what we got, 11 minutes to the periapsis. Right, we're in atmosphere now. So let's just check. I think we're, yeah, that's going to be a little too early. I'm going to burn out a little bit on the periapsis. Oh, sorry, on the prograde, because we've got a bit of fuel just to try and extend this out a little bit. So let's just give this a bit of a burn and see if this will. Okay, that's given us the 32 just on the edge of the desert. So let's see how that does for us in that regard. Right, I'm going to go for it now. So I'm going to eject this final stage. So we are going to be just our module. Okay. We did have plenty of fuel left, so I could have done, but we are okay because we are on a landing vector. So now let's just see how this goes. We're coming in as a night landing, but let's see where we're over grasslands at the moment, flying high. 62, so our descent rate is still isn't massive. We're coming down at about 86, 87. I want to see when that suddenly drops. At what height does it suddenly drop down? 88 still at the moment. Oh, nice, coming up for the sunrise. Nice sunrise coming over the hills there. Better just even up my ship works a little bit so we get that. Oh, look at that sunrise. Lovely. Okay, we've adjusted because of our automatically. Right, you can see our rate is still at 100, just coming up for 100 meters a second at this point. We've gone over water. Let's see where we are on the map. So we're on there, so we're still, our periapsis is moving, is hit land. Yeah, no, I think we're going to be a fair bit short. Yeah, we're going to be short. We might go in for that crater actually. We'll see. I think we're going to be another water landing, so that was disappointing. Disappointing. So we need that height to be a lot less than, again, whoops, I've forgotten, I mean, right, important thing here, take off the stabilisation. Don't need the stabilisation now, just let it sort its own itself out a little bit. It will, because I've put this items high up, it will automatically sort itself out. So let's have a look where we were in relation to that. No, we were, when this was at 60, that was at, I think it was 30. So we need to be measuring out nearer the 40k mark. Oops, got to remember to deploy shoot. Otherwise Podbart was almost going to have his very last flight ever. Now, just in case there's any we get anything, let's do some observe goo here, and that's of no value. Temperature, no, that's of no value, and materials, just in case it gives us anything. 3.8. We'll try it when we're in the water, just in case it's any more. Although, what was it saying? Review data, materials or flying at Kerbin, 2.8. No, it's not giving us anything. We'll try it in the water, but I think we've already got a water sample already. But any little bit of science is better than no science. We were better off with the one we had previously. That's a pity. We'll just try these again, just in case there's any difference. Log temperatures, no. Okay, we didn't get any science from that. Okay, we'll recover. So our descent was not properly organised. We tried it on 40, so it's going to have to be 40k. About the 40k point is closer to where we're going to actually land. When it hits around about the 40k mark, will be more accurate. So okay, disappointing on the science on that, but Podbart has done his flight. Now we'll recover those debris and some more. Okay, and we have had that, which is now is completed, and that complete tour is now fully completed. Oops. So yeah, we have done both of their itineraries, which is great. So that would have given us those ones, ferry them to their destinations wherever they are. Podbart on there. So we didn't get a lot of money for that. 147. I don't know if that went up. I think it went up a little bit. I'll have to have a review. So we'll have a quick check of what else we got. We got this 6 people, but we've got a bit of time on that. It's spicing forward, but do I take it? There's one thing I'm going to check before I take. What does it? Suborbital flight on the Mun. What does that mean? They have to land and then be done? That seems a bit much. But then again, there's a possibility of doing this all in one flight. If they orbit, then they do a fly by the Mun on the sorry, if they do an orbit of Kerbin, land and then do a hop on the Mun, and then they do their suborbital flight on Kerbin and fly by Mun on the way back. I'm going to try that. I think it's possible to do just about all 4 of those in one landing mission on the Moon. It might be a bit much, but we'll see. What else have we got here as far as elements go? Taking EVA support on the surface of Alpha site, Beta, and that's 3 sites. Kerbin is Sydney's surprise. Okay, so this is a possibly one we can have a look at. This will be an aircraft one. We're going to have to build an aircraft to fly to these particular places, land, our guy get out and do an EVA report basically at these particular sites. That sounds good, and they're going to give us 50, 60, 70, yeah, they're going to give us a whole load of money. I think I like that one. I think I'm going to take that one. We'll just check to see if there's anything else which is even better. Radio mount parachute in flight over Kerbin. Okay. So what's that? Is that a particular 20 to... that sounds a bit dangerous, but I think our existing ship already does that, but so possible. The Flea solid booster in flight over Kerbin. Potentially. Right, how many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. We can take one. Out of the ones I'm going to take... oh, which is done... oh, this one we could do really quickly, but it doesn't give us much money. This one gives us a lot of money, but it's going to be like a long time in getting it. I think I'll take this one here because it's good money and we can get it quickly. So next time we're going to be building a plane, I think, just to try and get some of these bits, that one out of the way. And we might even try and see if we can get rid of some of these other little areas. Okay, we got some money out of that as well for as an advance. The only other one we can do is, if we had enough money, we could upgrade this to have unlimited contracts. Possible, but not now. Not now. Okay, hopefully that made sense. So it was disappointing we didn't land where we wanted to, but this is all part of testing. I was watching things like about the real space program, and they did a lot of testing. There's a lot of luckily we haven't we don't have people really in trouble, but it's part of this game, is learning how to do this. So anyway, until next time, please click that like button, leave any comments below. Until next time, have fun.